And it's recording just like that. So, what do you want to do in this rehearsal? That, I guess, is the first question to pose because um, obviously we ran our scene for our midterm. Um, I thought it went well. There's obviously plenty of stuff to talk about. If you want to run bits and pieces of it again, we can. If you don't want to do that, that's also fine. Whatever you want to do. Do you just want to talk about it?
Yeah.
I'm inclined to that as well. Goodness gracious, pop-up ads are annoying. Good Lord. Okay. So yeah. What did you think about the run then? If we're just
It
going.
was good. I was surprised that they laughed, that they liked it so much.
I was also surprised about the laughter, which is something I wanted but wasn't expecting. Towards the end, I think Martin's character is funny when he's like, the way we played it was, oh God, I don't know what the hell's going on. I think there is something comedic about that at the end. Um, and then his like realization as to what's happening and taking Izzy off, running Izzy off stage back to his bedroom. I think there is definitely something very comedic about that. So I was glad they laughed. I was surprised. I, I was surprised people seemed to enjoy it.
Yeah, me too.
That sounds bad.
I didn't expect that at all.
Me either. I was a little bit shocked that people seemed to think it went well and all that good stuff. But
They loved it, I think.
yeah, yeah. I mean, who was it? Skylar was just saying, "Oh my God, that blew my mind," and I was like, "Okay, okay, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad it did." So yeah, I was happy with that one. I remember we dropped a few lines and stuff, but
I'm sorry.
no. I mean, the thing is, nobody knew. Like that's the important part of that. Is that if you do drop a line, you just move on and make it where nobody knows. There was all kinds of stuff we always dropped in Peter and the Starcatcher, which is not good, but that's how it was. We just dropped some stuff in Peter and the Starcatcher sometimes for that show. Not me, of course. I'm not gonna name names, but Dan Sandfelder and Jenna French. But yeah, the important part is that if that happens, you can just move on in a natural and authentic way. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. I mean, I think if you were to poll people, I don't think anybody would know that we dropped lines, which is good. And we only dropped like one or two, which still isn't ideal, obviously, but definitely not bad either. What else? I was happy with the performance, but at the same time, of course, there were things that we could work on. So like, what would be some of your critiques if we were moving forward? I don't care if they're directed at me. If they're directed at me, I want to hear them. I can take it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I didn't know actually. I just felt like usually I'm nervous when so many people watch me acting, and I really didn't feel good at that day. I really felt sad and depressed.
I did too. I did too. Definitely.
And therefore, I was so surprised that this scene went so well.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I was too.
And that we were even able to be funny. I was really surprised by myself.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's wonderful.
So I think some small things were different. Sometimes the energy, the dynamics were different, and I like this when we change it from time to time, like just naturally, not talking about that, not planning it, just like So it's the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's look where the scene takes us, or the lines. I like that. So I like the variation in that.
I agree. I like that as well. I think one thing for us, interestingly, connecting it to like the text we're reading for this class, acting under the circumstances and how to stop acting. I think we had our beat changes and our like, I don't want to say the delivery of the lines, but the general tone, the beat shifts. That's the big thing. The beat shifts were very set, and we did a good job of sticking to that. That doesn't mean we didn't play with what we were saying, because then you're like not acting at all if you just go boom, 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 rigid, 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 rigid. This is how it was planned. Obviously, that's not good either. But it is good to have the beat changes set. But I'd say one thing we only semi had set, and like we played around with small little nuances with it, was like the blocking. And we were open to that because it was pretty simple blocking. Like most of it was just me on the couch. So that gives us room to play around with like, when exactly did my character stand up? When he stands up, does he walk towards your character? Does he stand right where he is and just look frustrated when he stands up? When your character is approaching him, does he inch towards you or does he stay exactly where he is? Stuff like that. And your character is the same way. It's like when she's walking off to go to the door and leave, how does she respond when when Martin starts talking to her again in a positive way? Does she immediately start to turn around and realize what's going on? Stuff like that. Just small little blocking things that we left open. And because we left those open, it left us room to play and be free and have it feel like a unique new experience. It makes it feel more authentic because it felt more new, which is very like Gooskin and How to Stop Acting. That's like his whole thing in How to Stop Acting is don't be afraid, even in performance, to experiment with new stuff like that because it'll free you as an actor. And I like his text a lot. I really enjoy his text.
Yeah.
I know it's not for everyone, but that's the text for me. What would my critiques be then? I would say my biggest critique, if there was one thing I could like do over again, I feel like there's little bits and pieces, especially towards the end, where we let the tempo fall a little bit flat. Not super flat. It wasn't like the scene just died off. But there were moments for both of us, I'd say, where, and maybe it was we were struggling for our lines, who knows. Maybe it was that felt right in the moment, but in hindsight, I'm like, I think that's the big thing for me. That's what it was for me, at least. In the moment, I was like, this is how he would say it. And then afterwards, I was like, no, I don't know about that.
Which lines do you mean?
The line about, I'd say the biggest one for me, personally, was, look, why are you even mad at me? That line, which is the one that shifts from, you're right, I'm pathetic, I'm a pathetic chick, and I just think you could do so much better than that. And then I took a big pause there, and I don't know about how I feel about that. I think
like that.
I think it's good, but I think you gotta earn your pauses, and I used it a little too much, if that makes sense. And that's my subjective opinion. Like, you might disagree. You might have thought that was very nice. There might have been other people that thought that was very nice.
I just can say it didn't bother me, or I never felt like, oh, this pause is too big.
Yeah, that's good. And then yeah, moving forward, that was most of what I was talking about. Is the end, Marianne wanted us to be very bam, 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 bam. Um, and I like the idea that at the end, when Izzy is trying to seduce Martin, it's kind of just like, pow, 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 just going at him before he really even realizes what's going on. And I think we did a much better job of that in our performance of the scene than in our rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did a much better job with that. However, there was still room for improvement there. So yeah, I would say those would probably be my biggest critiques. I don't know if this tape also has to be an hour. That's my genuine question, because we're at 11 minutes. I can keep talking, but I don't know if it needs to be an hour. I probably should have asked that. Hey, does this need to be an hour, Marianne? I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. I can say something. During the rehearsals and also during our scene presentations, we had two.
Yeah.
I had different feelings at different parts of the scene. Like during the first rehearsals, I was really hurt by when you called me a whore. Like, it was, I don't know, it was very hurtful for me at that moment. And then at some other rehearsals, I kind of felt very touched when Martin said to me, "Look, Izzy, you're so beautiful, blah 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 blah." And I just let the lines coming really to me, and then at the during the presentation, I did not have that because it was not easy. I am the person who can be touched by that, Vanessa, but Izzy was not. Just a bit, but when you really said, "Oh, look, Izzy, you're so, I like you," or "You're so beautiful and full of life," and blah blah blah. So this was the point when Izzy was listening and enjoyed listening to the words. But I think it's interesting that I was touched, or kind of, emotionally touched by different lines, and it developed different lines during the rehearsals.
Yeah, I feel that too. For me, more than anything, because I think Martin has pretty clear responses. Izzy's are definitely more up in the air, in my opinion, in the sense that Martin is just pretty frustrated and mad. And you can play that different ways. There's tons of valid ways to play that frustration. But yeah, Martin has a pretty clear-cut set of, like, this is how he's responding. He's very upset with what's happening. Izzy's is less clear-cut to me. But I did see that reaction morph slightly as to how I would be frustrated. How I would be frustrated is a little different than how Martin would be frustrated, if that makes sense.
You became more quiet.
Yes.
And I like that.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you were so loud. I didn't think at the beginning, okay, it doesn't fit. But when you became more quiet, I realized I like that more.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know if I would have noticed that about myself, but you're right. I think that is something that happened. I also became more shut off. I feel like at the beginning, I was, and not shut off from the scene, but shut off in the sense that, and not shut off from the scene or my partner, but shut off in the sense that I was not I was not going to have whatever you were saying, if that makes sense. I was sticking to my guns that I hated Leonard. And you needed to know that. You needed to know that I hated Leonard. And I just needed to vent. That was the biggest thing. I needed to vent and just get it out there. And I was just letting it fly, because Martin's usually a subdued character. He's usually not open. And he's kind of just letting it all fly right now. But I was shut off from the idea that you could change my mind more than I was at the beginning. If that makes any sense. I'm kind of saying that in a weird way, but I think you get what I'm saying. Shut off isn't probably the right word, because that implies, well, there's a negative connotation between being shut off in theater, and I don't mean it like the perception of being shut off. I don't mean shut off from the scene or my partner. Yeah, but that was the biggest switch for me. Is throughout the rehearsal process it became more authentic feeling. While we're talking about the rehearsal process, one thing I will say is just how useful one of our rehearsal tapes that we turned in was like, oh my God, what is on my pants? Look at that. Holy crap.
Did you ride a bike?
I did not.
Looks like rust.
It does look like rust.
Maybe from the washing machine.
Maybe so. I don't know. Anyways, that's off topic. I was going to say, now that we're talking about the rehearsal process, I knew doing intimacy stuff would be very beneficial, but one of our rehearsal tapes, we spent like 30 minutes of the hour. It was like a 56-minute long rehearsal tape or something. It wasn't quite an hour, but basically an hour.
We got 10 points. So.
We got the 10 points, and that's all that matters. Yeah, it was like a 56-minute long tape, and we spent like 20 to 30 of those minutes just working intimacy. And that was so beneficial, like ridiculously beneficial. In our previous tape, we had actually done some intimacy in the scene, and it didn't feel bad. It didn't feel bad, the intimacy in the scene before, and I didn't feel uncomfortable. But after working intimacy for like 20 to 30 minutes, just sitting down and doing that, just getting it out there, that came so much more naturally. It felt so much easier, and made the scene feel a lot better too. I think it made the scene monumentally better because of that, because we spent that time doing that. Part of me even wishes we had done it sooner in hindsight, but I'm glad we did it, and we spent that much time on it. Like, I'm glad we took that time, because I feel like a lot of times you don't. A-Ray says one of the big problems is a lot of times directors will just be like, it's just a kiss, just do it, which is not a healthy mindset. And that's why it often looks bad. That's why it doesn't look good a lot of the times. And so the fact that we took the time to do that, I think, very beneficial. And like, moving forward, actually, I'd say if there's just one thing that I could tell other people moving forward to do for their scenes, it's to take the time to do that, to work intimacy stuff in an intimate scene, because it's dumb helpful. And I didn't even realize how dumb helpful it was until we did it. Very, very beneficial stuff. So yeah.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. What do you think about that, or about the rehearsal process, or anything like that?
I felt I should have suggested this doing just earlier, because some things I felt like, oh my God, Vani, talk to myself from time to time. You know how to do that, the exercises to do that, and I I just did not do that during the first rehearsals, and I felt kind of bad because it could have been much more easier. And I mean, at the end, it worked all good.
Yeah.
But I know, yeah, I was kind of annoyed by myself because I didn't think about it. I just did not take the time to just think about, okay, what do I want to do? What do we want to achieve? So I felt bad, and I don't know, I felt I had to say sorry to you.
You didn't need to say sorry. Yeah, no, you didn't, because like I said, I was never uncomfortable, and I would have told you if I was. And so just for that reason alone, you have no reason to be sorry. I mean, I think both of us realize now that it could have been helpful if we had started even sooner. But the fact of the matter is, we did it. We took the time to do that. Eventually, we should have done it sooner, but we eventually took the time to do that. And then the end product was good. None of us were uncomfortable. I mean, none of us were uncomfortable along the way. So, I mean, that's good. It was especially difficult because I'm 19, I'm a freshman in college, and you're like an established adult with a job.
I'm a scientist.
Yeah, you're a scientist.
PhD.
You have a PhD.
I graduated in 2012.
And you graduated in 2012. So, like, that made it even more beneficial. That made the intimacy work even more beneficial, because it was just like, okay, we acknowledge this age difference, this difference in life experience. We're just going to knock it out. Just take care of it. I think that was the biggest thing for me. Like I said, I wasn't uncomfortable before then, but when we really sat down to do the intimacy work, it was like, yes, one of us is a college student, one of us has a PhD, one of us is a first-year college student, one of us has a PhD.
You're from Tennessee.
I'm from Tennessee,
And
you're
I'm
from
from
Germany. Very different, which makes it naturally less comfortable, but it's not something you can't work past. And I think that's why it was so beneficial for me, was we just sat down and we said, yeah, we have these differences. Who cares? We move past them. It's acting.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times people don't take the time to do that, so.
I wish I could do a project here. I'm still working on getting my correct, certificate to become a theater pedagogist. Maybe I've told you about that, in Germany, and I have to do a theater project. And there are so many exercises to get close to someone, not physically, but kind of through the eyes into the heart. And I know so many exercises for groups, but they can be very intimate because I don't know. So you feel very close to this other person, and you just stay there in front of this other person. You stand and you just look in the other person's eyes and just mirror this other person, while this other person just is doing some movements, and this can be so
I've done that.
intense.
I've done that. Yes, that is a good exercise.
I like that so much.
I do too. We actually did that in one of my auditions here at UK for studio season. For the callback auditions, we did that. And it was funny because I feel like I read in that callback well, like, you know, they had me read a part of the character's dialogue, and I read it and I was like, that went well. I was like, I'm happy with how that went. And then at the end we all met up and reconvened and did that exercise where we were mirroring someone, because it's a very intimate show, and we were just mirroring their movements. And I got paired up with someone, you know, I'm not gonna berate her I'm not gonna berate her gosh, I can't think of the word, her reputation, I guess. Because I'm sure Marianne, if she's watching this, knows who she is because she's in the theater department here. But we were doing the mirroring exercise, which is supposed to be a very serious, intimate thing. And she was going through all these motions, and I was copying them, and she's moving her hands like this. And then she just took her hands and went like that. And
this is so funny.
And I exactly, we both just like busted out laughing, and everyone else was like so focused and so intimate and like so focused on their partner, and then I was just like, it was
so good.
And then she later, God, she almost got me again. She was just trying to make me break. Because later we were doing something.
She's a good actress.
She is good. She's very good. She's a very good actress. But later she was, moving her hands around, however, and then she took them and put them both in her armpits and just went like this. And I was like, what is going on?
This is so funny.
It was very funny.
I like that.
It was very funny, yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, that is a good exercise, unless your partner just wants to make you laugh. In which case, it's not a bad exercise either.
But it's also a way to come close to each other.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Because I think laughing is one of the special characteristics of human beings, because I don't know if other animals can laugh. I don't think so. Or I know if they have humor, because they can be angry, they can be sad, they can like and love each other. I mean, just can watch a dog. You see that he has, the dog can have so many different emotions, but I don't think a dog has humor. And this is something that is so characteristic for humans, and it's so something so special. And I even think sometimes, if some people are very close to each other, like two siblings, two brothers that really like each other, that grew up together, or two best friends that who've known each other for so many years, sometimes they have the same humor, and then I think sometimes they have the same way of laughing.
Yeah, interesting.
Sometimes I see that, and it's not always, but sometimes I see that. I like that, and it's kind of very. I think humor is very important for social interaction.
I agree. Yeah, I agree for sure. Humans are such funny little creatures. Such an odd bunch of people. I guess that's why we have theater, so we can talk about all those odd bunches of people. I guess so. What else? What else is
But
there
I
to
never
say?
know when I'm funny on stage.
That's interesting. Really, you don't know when you're funny on stage.
And I don't know. I just do the things on stage. But I really have problems then to explain that in an intellectual way. Like, okay, what are my objectives? What is all this?
Oh, I understand that entirely. Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard thing to do. I agree with that. I also have a hard time identifying that sometimes. And now that I'm becoming more aware and trying to do that more often, it's getting easier, like every time I have to do it. But I don't think that's something that comes naturally, which is, part of why I would make the argument. I hear the counter argument to me being a theater major all the time is, some of my other professors from the music college who didn't want me to switch over were like, well, you can still be an actor and not be a theater major. And I was like, that's true. But it's the training you get through being a theater major, the additional training that is actually remarkably beneficial. Because I don't think like scoring your script and being able to come up with what beats are and the tactics to achieve those beats and when the tactic changes happen, I don't think that stuff comes naturally. You know, and maybe the acting does come. Maybe you're a naturally talented actor, but if you're a naturally talented actor and then you add that on, you add that next layer of being able to do that stuff, it definitely helps.
I never did this before.
Right.
I just always practice and had rehearsals, but I never had this. I never made a structure.
Yeah, no, me either. I've been in 2 shows. Within the next month, I'll have been in 4 shows. Well, I guess I am in 4 shows, but within the next month or so, I'll have performed in 4 shows. But that is my theater experience. Very minimal. But after doing it, I actually did the musical. My high school always did 1 musical a year. And it was always the last play of the year. And it was the last play of the year, and it was my senior year, and I was like, this is something I've been kind of wanting to do for a long time, because I had been inclined to audition, but I kept making the excuse that I was too busy and it wouldn't work out, and I was like, no, I just don't have time. And finally I was like, you know what, this is my last chance. This is the last shot I have to do a play in high school. So I might as well audition and just see what happens. And I can always say no, like if I get a really bad part. That sounds horrible because you shouldn't do that. But like if I were to get a very, very, very minor part, and I don't say that because minor parts aren't important, because I know they are. They're vitally important. They're as important as the major roles. They're as important as the leads. I realize that. But I probably would have said no if I had gotten like just an ensemble part, simply because I had so much else going on that I wouldn't want to spend every night until like 9 or 10 at the school to perform as an ensemble member, if that makes sense. Maybe that's selfish of me, I don't know. Maybe it is. But I just decided to audition, and it was Cinderella, and I got cast as Prince Topher, and that shocked me a lot, but I took it on, and I loved that experience. And then I took that experience, and part of me when I did that play thought that's the beginning and end of my theater career. I was like, that's it, 1 high school play, that's the beginning and end of my theater career. And then I came here and I saw that one of the plays was Peter and the Starcatcher, and Black Stash has always been a dream role of mine.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he's one. I love him. He's so funny. He's such a funny character. He's been a dream role, and I love the play to death. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll audition and just see what happens. But then I kept making the same excuses I did in high school. I kept saying I don't have time. It's not going to work out. I've got too much on my plate. I can't do it. Blah, 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 blah. And then I just said to myself, Caleb, this is exactly what you said your senior year of high school. And you ended up loving that experience. So just go for it and see what happens. And so I did, and I got cast as Black Stash, which again was very shocking to me. But I took it on, and I loved that too. That being said, that's all of my theater experience. Those 2 shows were enough to inspire me to switch majors, which might just be crazy. That might make me insane, but that's what I did. But because those are my only 2 shows, like that's all the experience that I have, I don't really have any formal training until this semester. Like this has been the first time I've really been formally trained as an actor. I had 1 acting class last semester with Nancy, TA 120, but aside from that, that's it. And so definitely not in Cinderella at my high school, and just barely in Peter and the Starcatcher last semester did I sit down and go through objectives and tactics and really detail all that out. So I had a very clear picture of who my character was, what he wanted, how he was going to get what he wanted, and how that was changing with every scene. You know, just the minor objectives. The super objective obviously stays the same, but I just didn't sit down and do that with Cinderella at all. Definitely not with Prince Topher. And I'm not saying I did a shitty job playing Prince Topher. I think I did the role somewhat justice, somewhat, um, and I think I played Black Stash pretty well, but that's because I am Black Stash. The longer people hang out with me, the more they find out, oh, that kid wasn't acting. That's just how he is. But, you know, I never clearly defined that stuff. And it's weird to me to see how much it can help. So, like, moving forward, implementing that, I'm excited to see what it's gonna lead to, because I have no idea. I haven't really had a chance to play with it yet, but I will soon, and we'll see the differences it makes, which it clearly does make a difference. I found that out just through this scene and this midterm.
I think it's interesting that I didn't feel this age difference at all during rehearsals. I mean, I have more theater experience than you, but I didn't think, oh, the age difference is a thing between us. Not at all. I don't know why.
I think that's interesting too, because I agree that I feel the same way. In our initial, like when we were initially presented with the scenes, I immediately thought about that. I was just like, this is going to be a big age difference, and it's a very intimate scene. Like when we were initially reading through it in Marianne's class, right after she assigned our partners and scenes. And I probably felt it for like the first 20 or so minutes of the first rehearsal we had. And then after that, I did not. It is curious. I think it's because, what's the best way to say this? How do I say this? I think a big reason that I didn't feel the age difference is because, I mean, we were working together as partners. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, you know, right now my mom got a new job because my parents moved to Nashville again after I lived in Nashville for 6 years and then moved to Tullahoma for 7 years. And they wanted to get me through high school, but my dad got reappointed to a church in Nashville. He's a pastor, and he got appointed to a church in Nashville. And so they got me through high school in Tullahoma, but now he's back up in a church in Nashville, so they're moving back up to Nashville. They actually just got the keys to their new house, so that's exciting. My mom had to get a new job too because they're moving up to Nashville, and she's a physical therapist. Mm-hmm. And she got a job at Vanderbilt as a physical therapist. And she said just about everyone there is like 25 or 26 or 27 or 28. Mm-hmm. They're young. You know, like the oldest people are like 33, mm-hmm. and she's 51. And because of that, especially like the people that are, 20, 25, 26, literally fresh out of college, just graduated from PT school. Mm-hmm. In any other environment aside from a working environment, or if they didn't meet through a working environment, I should say, you might feel that age difference a lot, and like it might be not a source of conflict, but an excuse to not get as close. I feel like people use it as that a lot. but because, you know, they work together, they have essentially the same job. I mean, my mom gets paid a little more because she's got a little more experience, so they started her salary a little higher. But essentially, they have the same job and they're working at the same place. And because of that, like, my mom goes out for beers with like these 25-year-old girls on Friday nights, and she's twice their age. And I think that's a little funny. Like, it's a little funny to me, but at the same time, it makes sense. Yeah, and it's good because age is just a number to an extent. I mean, to an extent, there's, you know,
if you don't feel like, okay, I need to talk about something and you just have not the experience yet, age makes a difference.
Yeah, age definitely makes a difference. And it also makes a difference in that, like, if you're over the age of 18, please don't date or be attracted to anyone under the age of 18. That does make a difference. But we're not going to get into that. But to a large extent, you know, it makes a difference. But you can set that aside and just work together as human beings.
I have in Germany, my friends, my best friends that I've had for, I don't know, since I went to high school, they're all older than me. Like, they're all now in their 40s. And my former partner is also in his 40s. So I only had, not only, but my best friends, they are all a lot older than me. And here it is different. I just have friends here, or as far as I could make friends in this time, in the 10 months, that are younger than me. It's for me, it's so funny. I don't have any problems with it. I'm happy that I met those people. But I see, okay, some of them are 20 years younger than some of my German friends. And still, they are all my friends.
Yeah. That's funny. That's very interesting.
So I had, on Saturday, I met up with a friend, just not dating, just a friend.
Right.
He's 24. I mean, I'm 33.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it goes. And I also think it's interesting, you know, this is just not as much about our scene now, but just the world in general. I think it's interesting that it seems like the older you get, the less that the difference in ages seems to mean. Like, to a 7-year-old, even like a 12-year-old is intimidating beyond belief. You know, and to a 13-year-old, a high school senior is like, ugh. And then you hit a certain point where, you know, I'm in the middle ground where I'm starting to become an adult. That's kind of what college just is in general. It's starting to become an adult, starting to pick up responsibilities, starting to see things the way an adult should, because you're getting there. You're a young adult, you're not independent, but you're kind of independent. You know, there's all this mixed middle ground. But I think because of that, it also puts you in the middle ground for that, like, you know, the relationship with professors is often, I've already found, very different than it was with high school teachers. There's still a mutual level of professionalism, but like in high school, your teachers are like, no, don't friend me on Facebook. You can't friend me on Facebook. And I've had, like, you know, professors reach out and be like, hey, do you want to go meet up for coffee and talk about blah, blah, blah about the class? And that's something like a high school teacher would never do, would be to say.
Or they have reasons for that.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like interesting that it's like this middle ground. It's like when you get to college, you start to realize that, you know, you can look past age and just treat everyone as human beings and not be intimidated by their age or anything like that. Or, yeah, it's the middle ground for that road. Essentially, that's it. That you can all treat each other as human beings, and you shouldn't let age necessarily intimidate you. I think that's the big thing. And college is where you really start to realize that. But I also understand, I felt it a little at the beginning of our scene. So it is still that middle ground. It's not like you fully realize that. But like many things in college, you're on the road to realizing that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I had the feeling when I turned 24, oh, I'm getting a grown up. I'm becoming a grown up. And before I just enjoyed my life. I just enjoyed being over 18. But it's not so a big step as it is maybe here, because I lived on my own since I was 17, and one of my best friends was thrown out of home, and I was thrown out of home, and so it was not so exotic to not live with parents anymore at this age. So we had to find ways to small jobs or live more independently, and here it's still I in average, and it's just my very little experience that I made here. You have a longer relationship, closer relationship to your parents, and because also of this bad experience, I kind of developed a bit far away from my parents, and had to stand on my own, and also emotionally, and had to find kind of other people because you always need people that protect you, and so I made these friends, or not therefore, but I'm glad that I found them.
Yeah.
And I went to school, and in the morning they brought me to school, so it was kind of different, and still I was not mature.
Right.
And I had the feeling it started when I turned 24, like, oh, I feel like I'm getting a grown up now.
Yeah, I definitely don't feel grown up yet.
But this is okay. This is so, because I enjoyed this time so much, Caleb.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was such a fun time, and I acted so much, and it was so cool, and it was just like free, and your brain is still so young, and you can memorize so fast, and you can learn so much faster. And now I'm feeling, oh my God, my brain is so slow. Yeah.
I'm really hoping I can memorize fast, because I actually have a show. I have a show that I'm supposed to be off book for in 2 days.
Oh.
And I'm just not. But it's okay. The director was like, it's midterm week. Don't stress if you're not off book by Wednesday. But I'm going to try to be off book.
It's about practicing.
I'm going to try.
The more you memorize, the faster you can do this.
That's true. That's true. Goodness gracious, what am I hitting? I keep bumping into this thing on the ground. It's annoying me.
Mm-hmm.
I like to scoot the chairs around because I'm still a child. I do still feel like a child, but that's okay. Not a child, but not an adult.
Important.
Yeah.
And sometimes I remember some feelings that I had when I was a child in some situations, and I think it's important just at least trying not to forget your feelings and your point of view when you were smaller, because you can always use this. And so many people forget about their own experiences, their own world of emotions when they were small, and then they don't understand children, and then they think they're kind of different human beings. But I think it's important not to forget about oneself.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's part of it. I don't want to say I don't want to grow up, because I'm not sure that's the right statement either.
I definitely did not want to do that. And
I feel 10. Like that's
I was 10.
Common
I saw
sentiment.
The older, I saw 15-year-old women, and I was 10, and I felt like something was about to happen with me. And I really felt it very deeply. And I hated that. And I wish I could just stay a child in my child world for my whole life. but then I started to develop, and this was sad for me, really.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. For me, it's not so much that I don't want to grow up, but it's more that, yeah, I guess I'm ready to grow up. It's the mindset of, yeah, I guess I'm ready to grow up, but at the same time, I want to relish these years in college while I have them, because there's none quite like them. Like,
Right.
and for me, that doesn't mean, going out every weekend and partying until I can't remember what happens.
No.
But that's what it means for some people.
I never like blackout. I don't like that.
Yeah, me either. But that's what it means for some people. I'm not about that. But regardless as to what it means for you, college is definitely a unique experience. Like I said earlier, it kind of is that middle ground connecting your childhood to your adult life. And for that reason alone, it's like a unique thing. And so I want to cling to that. It's not that I don't want to grow up, but I want to live my college life, which is slightly different than my high school life and slightly different than my fully adult life. Yeah.
No.
That's kind of how it is. Well, I'd say we're at 51 minutes. We can put a wrap on this. Some of our tapes were an hour and 16 minutes long.
Oh, really?
Yep. So this will make up for it. This has kind of just been like a podcast. You listen to any podcasts? I feel like that's what this was.
Yeah, I should start doing that.
I like podcasts. I listen to them while I'm going to bed, which probably isn't good because then I don't remember anything that's said.
Usually I listen to French audiobooks.
I can't get into audiobooks. I don't know why. I like to have the book physically. That's my favorite part.
Yeah.
But audiobooks
still
are
have to
useful.
read the books, the chapters.
I do too. I do too. I'll do it at some point tonight. But anyways, I feel like that's a wrap on this. Now we can really
I'm so excited about the final scene. Do you know when we get it?
I don't know, but I want to know. I just got a pop-up ad. I'm annoyed. I don't know, but I'm also very excited for it. I'm excited to see what it might be. And I like so many people in that class. I think we have a wonderful class. So I'm like excited to see who I end up with, what the scene's about, blah, 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 all that good stuff.
I think we were a successful team.
I think so, definitely. And, weirdly enough, I was like, how are we going to talk for an hour? Now we've almost talked for an hour. And it hasn't been all about the scene. We haven't talked exclusively about the scene, but I think that's good that we talked about stuff other than the scene. I think that puts a good, natural, authentic wrap on this. And, we can throw it in our pocket and say, yeah, this is a success. I'm glad it happened.
I wish I could take the advanced acting class next semester.
Well, why can't you?
I don't know if I will be here because I don't know. But I wish I could.
Well, if you can, you should.
Marianne, or I don't know.
Marianne is wonderful with her audition techniques class, which is a lot of work from what I've heard, but very good. I plan on taking it at some point, maybe next semester, maybe not, we'll see. But yeah, I guess that's a wrap on this hell of a project. It's been good to work with you.
Thank you for working with you.
Of course. Let's hit pause on this video, and that'll be that. Peace, Marianne.